what they're doing.
I
What
did.
I don't know is what they're doing with the money and how they're transferring assets and liabilities, because they do say that post-spin, the SpinCos are going to be 100% responsible for funding the pension plan liabilities going forward.
Right.
So I really am interested in seeing how they're doing that, because they've got, a lot of assets and they got a lot of liabilities, and depending on how you look at it, there's a shortfall in the billions of dollars no matter what, and how they divide it up is pretty critical. So they did a couple of presentations which are available online that I can send to you guys if you haven't looked at them already, where they talked about this and they did a little Q&A about how it all went down. But the bottom line is they're sending notices out in November, and then you'll know for sure. For retirees, to the extent you weren't part of healthcare, aviation, or power and renewables, they're going to choose where you go and you don't have a say in it.
Right.
So you might get mapped. They call it mapping. They may map you over to healthcare. They may map you over to aviation. They may map you over to Renova. Now, Renova hasn't even been created yet, as I understand it. It is, or Vernova, whatever it's called.
Vernova,
Yeah, it's the portfolio of GE's energy businesses. And that's the one apparently is taking the most time to put together. And you'll know more about that by November. But what I know nothing about is how they're chopping up the assets and the liabilities, and who's getting allocated what in terms of, the ongoing funding responsibility, including PBGC premiums. So it's a big deal.
They told me, Ed, was that they were trying to do it through actuarials. They're trying to do it so that it was a balanced split between the businesses and what they thought they could handle. That's what, and that's very generalized. But that's what I was told.
So the part that's interesting to me is that they're in all the presentations that I've looked at, they keep stressing to the pensioners how you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You'll get notification in November on where your benefit is being mapped, but no action is required. No action is required. And any vested benefit you have will stay vested. And they also stress how important the PBGC coverage is. But what they don't tell anybody is that if we do any more de-risking transactions, you lose the PBGC coverage entirely.
Yeah.
So they don't talk about that. And they're not talking about any of the prior de-risking deals that they did, because those are already outside of the pension plan. But what they're promoting is that, all three SpinCos will be managing their own retirement benefits separately as of the dates of the appropriate spins. Healthcare has already happened, as you know. And then in November, you're going to get a notification, and that's going to tell you where you go. And they very nicely and politely said, there's nothing you can do to change it.
Right. And the other thing, I do remember one of the little ripples in this thing is that sometimes a couple, a retiree and their dependent, the wife, the spouse, or whatever, they might not be together in the plan, which is going to create all kinds of havoc.
Well, the way they described it is that whatever benefit that you've elected, and to the extent it's a vested pension benefit, that won't change. So if people made spousal elections, they won't change. Their rights to make them in the future won't change. The plan's just going to be administered by a new company. The real question for me is, number one, are they going to divide these assets, in the right way? And the big question is, can these SpinCos meet their minimum required contributions on a go-forward basis out of operating earnings? Because they won't have the benefit of the other companies. They're being spun into three. Who knows how those businesses do, how much money they spend. And like I said before, the retiree ages, if you look in the 5,500, the breakdown is very heavily people between 60 and 70. You don't have a lot of people older than 75 that are vested right now. I'm sure that will grow. But the big numbers, most of you GE retirees are relatively young. So it's a big concern to see what happens with the SpinCo and whether or not those three companies, healthcare, aerospace, and energy, are going to be, reasonably equivalent companies and able to support their obligations, particularly if you get dumped on one after the fact without having much say in the matter.
I believe, Ed, one of the things, I think they already sent that letter. I think that letter was already sent in November.
Yeah, I got a couple months ago, Ed. I was going to be tied with GE Healthcare.
Yeah, and I got aviation. And Connie's, I don't know if she's able to talk. Betsy.
Yeah, I'm on the phone.
Betsy.
I'm on the phone now.
You already know where you're mapped to.
I'm on aviation.
Okay. Okay.
Betsy's
I'm
on
in
it.
aviation. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
would you
Yeah,
say
we hear you,
that?
Connie.
Did you get all these documents they're supposed to send, like a notice of material modification of the plan, all that kind of stuff?
I don't remember getting any of that. Did you guys?
No.
No.
No, I
okay,
don't.
so
No, I don't
that's what
either.
that's what they're gonna be sending in November of this year.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the document that they've been talking about that you'll get. It's on the bottom of their disclaimer there, I think it is.
Right. But I think what they need to do is they're gonna have to make a material modification to the pension plan in order for the spin to go through. Because it looks like they're gonna divide the plan up into 3 parts.
Mhm.
And that's at least what they've said. So the tricky part about that is, how do they do it? And then, are they transferring the right amount of assets along with the right amount of liabilities?
Right.
That's not as easy as you would think, right? Because, you have age and you have some other information, but I don't know what all they're putting into that determination. But I'd love to see what they look like when the transfers have been made.
Yeah.
And, there's also, not for nothing, there's a rule under ERISA that says you can't reduce any vested benefits. So they
Okay.
have to do this mindful of what's called the anti-cutback rule.
You
which
see
I'm
what
sure
they're calling, Ed? You see what they're calling the 3 pension plans? GE Aerospace in the disclaimer is going to be called the pension plan trust, is going to be called General Electric Company. GE Healthcare is going to be called GE Healthcare Holding LLC. The
Right.
GE Energy, or what's going to be named Verona in the end, Vernova, excuse me, is sponsored by Ropecore. You ever hear of that place? Ropecore Incorporated?
No.
Yeah, see. And that won't happen, Ed. I was told it won't happen until probably the end of 2024 and going into 2025 before they make the actual total split of these plans. Because they don't have the boards in place, only healthcare is established. Their boards won't be in place, their staffs won't be in place, all that kind of stuff. So that'll be the decision made after that. Where it goes, where the money goes, how it goes. I'm sure they're working on the numbers, obviously.
Oh, no, I'm sure they're working on the numbers, and I'm sure it's very complicated because some of this they need regulatory approvals to do. And on the pension side, I'm sure that they're speaking with the PBGC about it, because they made a big deal in one of the presentations I listened to about saying how everybody's going to still have PBGC coverage. So even if one of the companies goes bankrupt, pension would still be covered. By the way, that's not true, because depending on your age, PBGC coverage, as you know from some of my prior presentations, changes dramatically. It's about $65,000 a year if you retire, if you call on it at age 65, and if you call on PBGC coverage at age 75, it's like over 200,000. There's a big difference. And once it's triggered, that's the amount for life. So who knows how much coverage will be available, because it depends on how old you are when the plan is taken over, if the plan gets taken over. And look, none of you guys want the plan to be taken over, I wouldn't think. But I just thought it was interesting that they stressed the value of the PBGC coverage, but they didn't tell any of the pensioners that they kicked out in the de-risking transfers that they lost it all.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so what we're doing with Retirees for Justice is we are hosting this retiree roundtable on April 19th. We'd love for some of you guys to join if you can. If you can't make it in person, please come virtually. If you want to participate, let me know. My hope is to have a roundtable about impact of spinoffs on retiree benefits, and then have folks from the Beltel retirees, AT&T, DuPont, and GE able to be there to just talk about what their issues are and what their concerns are, And, you know, we'll have folks there who'll be able to answer a lot of those questions, and at least highlight what the issues are so people can talk about it.
Right.
And the main, you know, goal on the pension risk transfer side that I think is super important is that, you know, we're working on a lot of fronts to make the whole process more transparent and accountable, so people don't find themselves de-risked with an insurance company that is not well heeled enough to make good on their benefits. So there are some movements underway, both at the federal level and at the state level, to protect retirees and de-risking transactions. So we'll talk about all of that at the seminar as well. We're also going to talk about kind of workplace safety, which is an issue that's particularly important to folks who are exposed to, you know, either toxic chemicals, asbestos, or lead paint, which it turned out was a big deal for some of these phone company retirees. And I'm sure the GE folks had some issues along the way in various different
They
business
had a
lines.
lawsuit there, and a lot of people got a lot of good settlements in the beginning, and then it started to drop off, and eventually they were offering you a $25 gift card. I said, that's enough of that, boss.
And I'm sure that didn't help people with their retirement or their
No.
medical bill.
That was
But
good.
the purpose behind the roundtable is kind of kick off Retirees for Justice and have a forum for discussion with retirees and folks who are impacted by these retirement issues. There'll be some very interesting people speaking there, and it's definitely worth attending, even if you dial in, and it's free. We'll be sending some stuff out, and I'd love it if you could share it with your folks and even on your Facebook page, because the more people that dial in, the better it'll be for round two. This is our first one, but we're hoping to essentially use this as a launch pad to do another next year.
Right. Let me show you what let's see if I got it up here. If I can find it, Ed. Let's see. I put up, oh, this right here. I put this up. Did it come in? It doesn't look like it came in. Let me do it again. Yeah, did that come in? The roundtable sign up thing there, inaugural retiree roundtable, did that come in?
I think you got to scroll down. Is it more on the, there you go. There you go.
All right. Yeah. It should
Sam,
have-
could you check that the addresses and the RSVP things are right?
Yeah,
and
I've
put-
also put the link to the RSVP in the chat if anybody wants to click
Okay.
on that now. That's right, it's there.
Connie, send me a message here. Hold on. We have a temporary hold up here. Let's see. So there are, since I'm on the phone, I can't see how many people are there in the meeting. So are there more now? No. No, Connie. No, if you're hearing me. Nobody else has joined that I see.
Yeah, too bad.
Yeah, put our name up on top there too, Ed. Inaugural retiree roundtable.
Yep.
And GERBS and
Right.
Samantha. Sam.
Sure. Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, and if you guys want anything or you want to participate, or if you have any questions, just email Sam. She'll be able to get back to you. She's got the most up-to-date data.
Yeah.
But
now,
I'll
the
be-
19th, Ed, the one thing I wanted to tell you, and I think I told you this before, but the 19th is the same day as the GE, I guess you'd call it spring, retiree and GE and retiree reps from across the country the same day. And I'm not going to attend that because I'm attending your thing. And I don't know if Brian or Connie or anybody else plans on attending the GE thing as our representative, but you know, so there's going to be a little bit of interference of both on the same day. So I had to make the choice to join your meeting because I'm going to be doing a part of it. So
Do you really feel that that meeting is of any benefit to us? It's the same.
yeah, it's the same stuff. And what
Yeah.
they're going to do, really talk about is because the share owners meeting is coming up. And
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of Larry Culp speaking at the share owners meeting is going to talk about these splits. Matter of fact, they'll probably put it online on the GE site if you want to look at it after. He'll be
Yeah,
talking
when is
about-
the shareholder meeting?
I didn't even look up the date. I'd have to look it up. Ed. It's on the GE site. I'm sure it's posted there and it gives you.
I'll
the
find
date.
it.
And
Well, I have it on my email as well, but I don't have my laptop up. So
I don't have it.
remember they sent us yeah, because he sent us a letter asking us if we were gonna what day would be good for us, remember?
Yeah,
For everybody.
right, exactly.
Do you know
I'll
if
send
there,
it to you later.
Connie,
So-
do you know if there are any pending proxy proposals?
He didn't say if there's anything like that.
Yeah, they usually don't, Ed.
Mm-mm.
Rodney, can you look it up on the internet and see if you can get the date for him?
That's what I'm looking for right
Okay.
now.
Thanks. It'd probably be like GE Shareowners meeting. I don't know what you put in for the search, but I could probably do
It's from
it.
Dean.
Well, it's the spin-offs are tough things to really get your arms around until they're done.
I
it's
know,
a-
that's what I'm telling you.
You
Jack.
really don't know much. And they've told every presentation that I listened to and read, they always say retirees and employees don't have to do anything. Basically, they're saying, just trust us. We're going to do right by you. Which is probably a hard pill to swallow at this point.
Well, and again,
Hold a shareholder meeting on Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. That's a
it's virtual,
virtual shareholder meeting.
right? It's virtual. Yep. Thank you.
Oh, good. So there's still time for us to show up and protest.
They have been doing that in the past, but now it's virtual. Ed. You can show up maybe virtually, but and you probably have to sign up, and you probably have to be a GE stockholder. I don't know what they're. Sometimes
They've gotten a lot tighter about how to let people in. That's I
Yeah.
know that for sure.
they don't want
let's see.
rabble rousers in there.
No, definitely not.
But they've I think the last couple of years they've kind of the CEO of the company, they've kind of shot him down and getting any bonuses because they're not doing that good. So
Yeah.
investors are starting to get a little more active about what they're doing. You don't just allow somebody to just because they're a CEO to just get whatever they want.
And they go ahead, Rodney.
he's still hanging around, so he
Yeah,
hasn't left the ship yet.
no.
It's not an easy job,
he's
right?
taking over. He's taking over the GE aerospace part. So he's going with the most secure of all of them, and healthcare second, and power, of course, is you never know.
Well, that'll be something really interesting to watch, including the compensation that they pay out to the people who go with the spincos.
Yeah.
Because what I saw with the Dow DuPont combination and spin was that they really did a number on the folks in the pension plan because they transferred the entire pension plan to their agricultural subsidiary. And, that had no track record. It was kind of like what GE's doing with the energy business, right?
Yeah,
Because conglomeration of kind of assets that they're putting together into one company.
right.
It's not like it's an existing company.
What were the
Um,
other things that me and you had talked about? I just can't recall off the top of my head about this spinoff like DuPont and other companies. What were the repercussions for retirees in those? Do you remember?
Yeah, so one of them that goes back, well, spinoffs have been something I've been following for decades since AT&T broke up, right? Just because that's what kind of started it all. But when Verizon spun off a company some time ago, a company called IDARC, it was like the Yellow Pages business.
Yeah.
And they spun off this company and the company went bankrupt.
Jeez.
So so everybody got screwed. It was a whole mess. And they challenged that and that was kind of a bummer. And with Dow and DuPont, there's litigation that's ongoing, but for now the spinoffs have moved forward, and the new Dow and the new DuPont have been selling off assets and paying their executives very handsomely. And the pension plan, is just kind of plugging along in this gray area, which is, an unfortunate thing. And one of our goals at Retirees for Justice is to shine more light on this, so people realize that they're really letting people manipulate pensions way too much for way too long. We're not getting enough kind of current data. Like, for example, if you look at the stuff that you shared earlier today, John, if you take a look at the fair market value of the plan, as opposed to what they say the numbers are. If you hold on one second, I'll just pull it up.
Yeah.
this is the 5,500. No, I don't want that. This is it. All right. So if you open up that annual funding notice, and this is, now remember, this is old. But if you go down, you know, you can see on page 3, the first information table, it says funding target attainment percentage, funding shortfall, minimum required contributions. So for 2021, using the adjusted interest rates, which means a higher discount rate, which means less money, the
Right.
minimum required contribution is 379 million. Without adjusting rates and using the actual discount rates that the plan's been earning, you'd have to contribute $1.4 billion, close to $1.5 billion. It's a big delta, right?
Yeah.
And that's just 1 year. Now, what's even more interesting, if you go down a couple of pages, it says, how well funded is your plan? Here it says it's 98.19% funded. And the number I gave you before was the number that they just published for 2022, which says it is 93.5% funded. But these are all going back, these are all looking backwards. If you look at the section that says fair market value, let me find that.
Yeah, what's it say there?
Okay, so if you go down to year-end assets and liabilities, it says that as of December 31, 2021, because remember, that's the cutoff date for these calculations, the fair market value of the plan's assets was almost 61 billion. On the same date, the plan's liabilities were 66.16 billion.
Yeah.
So there's $6 billion delta there. And the plan lost 20% of its value, and they played more monkey business with rates to make it look better.
Yep.
So, post spinoffs, you got to keep a close eye on what the real value of this plan is.
And that report come out in April, 2022, and the new report should be coming out now pretty soon in April of 2023. And we'll have some new numbers.
Right, and then you'll have data, but it'll go back to the prior year.
Right. And the one thing I always, say, people got to remember how we got here. And if you remember, we had a $31 billion deficit when Inmel left this business on the pension plan alone. And they were almost ready to file bankruptcy, GE as a business, which was unheard of. Remember, they were dropped from the stock market, all this kind of stuff. Very, very bad financial position. And that's how we got here. And people got to remember that these businesses, if they're not run right, can really hurt us, plain and simple.
Well, I know less about the businesses that GE has, but I do know a little bit about the pension reporting that they do. And it's a big concern. Whenever you see a big contribution to the pension plan before the spinoff, it's really meant to mask what's really going on inside of the plan, because you can use that pre-funding balance to show, everything is good, right?
Yeah.
But and they don't contribute, they're not contributing any more money now as they're working on the spinoff, because they're horse trading with the different companies to figure out who's taking what. So there's going to be a whole big series of documents and filings that are going to come out over a period of years, because the spin's not going to be complete, like you said, John, until probably 2024.
Yeah, at the end of 2024, and they might be making announcements about where they stand financially with each of the businesses and where people are going. The money amounts, where the money is going for the pension trust and all that kind of stuff.
So I think there's going to be this summary of material modification that you're going to get later in the year.
Right.
You're going to get a couple of more disclosures this year. If you can look at if you can look for the supplemental annual funding notice for last year, that would be great for me to look at. And then you'll get another one this year, probably. You'll get the regular annual funding notice probably in April. And then the supplemental usually comes out in October.
Let me ask Rodney or Connie or Betsy, did any of you get anything in the mail, snail mail, get anything from GE on the funding and all that pension plan annual summary and funding? And did you guys get anything? I didn't get anything yet that I know of.
I'd have to look. I don't know.
I think it's not gonna happen at least till April, Ed, until they put it out.
Yeah, no, I don't think you will get it. till
I
April.
didn't get anything detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I I don't know, Ed would know better than me, but I think there's kind of a trend that the government's actually starting to look, and prosecutors is starting to look at some of this stuff going on. I know there's breaking news today about Credit Suisse that they were hiding people's assets offshore to avoid taxes, and I know the current administration is wanting to try to get as many taxes as they can that have been hidden and closing loopholes. And I think this is going to fall into that category with us.
Well, Ed, why
Start
don't you
looking
talk
at things
about the
closer.
legislative stuff that you've been working on in the senators and the kind
Yeah.
of work?
So one of our big things is we want to propose an amendment to ERISA to make sure that retirees can't be discriminated against after they take their retirement benefits. Right now, we're looking to get someone to sponsor it. We've talked to a bunch of different people, and I'm working also with the Pension Rights Center to get protections for, in particular, pensions, but also for other things. But it would have to take a full ERISA amendment. So we're working on sponsoring legislation to do just I've written the amendment myself, so it's already done, but we just got to get folks on board and get Congress to pay attention to it, which right now has been difficult. But that's one of the things our biggest initiative is going to be, is to get an ERISA amendment going. And one of the things I put in there, which you guys will like, is I've written in there that you can't do a pension de-risking transfer or cut retiree benefits, and hide behind a statute of limitations. So I've written in there that these statutes would be told until the last retiree pension payment was made. Now, of course, nobody's going to like that except for retirees. But it's an interesting way to point out that, these transactions, they don't put retirees on equal footing with the folks in the corporate boardrooms, right? Like you don't have any say in what assets get allocated where, or what the business units are going to be like, or how they're going to even operate. Yet they've transferred your pension, and you have absolutely no say. And if they transfer it to an annuity and that company goes into insolvency, they can't sue the executives under ERISA anymore, because in all likelihood, the statutes of limitations will have run. So I'm trying to have it amended so that can't happen. The other thing we're doing is we're proposing legislation at the state level to restore protections that retirees had under ERISA with reasonably equivalent protections under state law. So we have a bill pending in New York now. It's likely to die in the insurance committee, which is kind of what happens in New York every year. But we're going to look to grow that effort and bring it into other states, because we think that with the number of transfers that have taken place, the key thing is to make sure that the states protect pensioners, for example, from creditor claims and from subsequent transfers when an insurance company that may be solvent transfers to an insurance company that's less solvent. We shouldn't let that happen without some oversight. And then the other thing we're trying to do is get something built in to provide some sort of backstop or reinsurance in the event that the Guarantee Association coverage amounts are not sufficient. So those are the kinds of things that we're working at Retirees for Justice, and we can use, as much support as we can get from retirees and folks who are looking to retire in the near future.
John, you're on mute.
You're
John.
on mute, John.
I'm going to message him.
Myself, because there's guys out here with doing some kind of work. Anyway,
You were on mute for a bit.
want to say something about the petitions, Ed, and when that be available for, your legislative support with congressmen or senators?
Yeah, so we'll be announcing all of that at the retiree roundtable, but it'll be available this year, and we can all do it all. You can all do it all electronically. Right now, you can join Retirees for Justice for free, and I would urge you guys to do it if you haven't already. We're going to come out with a paid subscription that's going to be very modest for everybody, but we're going to have upgraded benefits, but it's going to come along with life insurance for everybody that you won't have to pay for. So in other words, the benefit, you'll get a benefit in newsletters and things like that. You'll also have access to various different types of life insurance, some of which are going to come free, which if I work it out right. And then we'll be monitoring kind of legislation across the country and sending out things that people can sign on. And all they'll have to do is essentially customize a letter to their member of Congress or their state legislature, and we'll be able to send it in to get force behind the bills that we're sponsoring. We haven't chosen everything yet. But we're waiting to find a sponsor on the amendment, on the ERISA amendment. There's a couple of things that are moving in Congress, and we're looking through that. And on the state level, we're going to ask folks to support what's moving in New York.
You see on the agenda, I just went off to the Why Join page. Do you see that on the screen, the Why Join page?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back to the agenda here. And let's see, go back here. I showed you the form that you'd be able to make out, but here on the screen now, it'd be the roundtable coming up in April here. There's where the form is, the link, a little thing about it and all that, so people can start to sign up. Help me to promote April 19th, anybody that can. Use whatever materials I've sent you here or other materials from Ed's site there, Retirees for Justice. Ed, have you got a distribution list for our old board members that are still, we're like back to core members, if you will?
I don't think I have a list from you. I mean, I have the things that you sent me. If they're on that, I could dig it up. But if you have one, I'm happy to send it
I
out
think
to
I
them.
copied you and when I did Rodney, Bob, Connie, Betsy, you know, the board members that were in place, just so that they get the same information. I think you got it as part of the distribution there. So when Samantha sends something out, she can include everybody. And you guys, if you could help me with some of the posting, I'm back working again. So I don't have a lot of time. So if you guys can help me out with posting about April 19th, and, you know, when we get to petitions and go to look at RFJ, Retirees for Justice, all those kind of things. Let's start building up the interest and trying to get people more involved, even though today's a wonderful example of they don't give a crap.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, it's tough, but you guys are involved and stay involved, and you can use the support. And we've been a little bit scrambling because a lot was going on with the Secure Act 2.0 last session, and we were working with the Department of Labor on trying to kind of put some teeth into this notion of the safest available annuity provider, which is an important issue, and something we're still working on. But the bill itself didn't have a ton of teeth when it came to what they had to do. It just said the Department of Labor shall revisit this within a year. You know, so let's see what they do. So part of our effort is going to be to push them to actually do something. Because when I brought to their attention that the bunch of people from the Dow DuPont group were losing their life insurance, they were all up in arms about it and said they were going to do something. But at the end of the day, they got talked out of it by their boss, and they did absolutely nothing. And people
I
who had been
expect that to
paying
happen with us. I really do.
yeah. Well, if you don't do anything, it clearly will. But we're starting to get a little traction with Congress, not because they care per se about retirees, although retirees do vote early and often, but they are very concerned about private equity funds taking over all these insurance companies. Because they're worried that they're going to come in, strip out all the good assets and leave them high and dry. And then, you know, they don't want to have a catastrophe on their hands. So I think we're going to get a more and more receptive audience from folks as we, you know,
definitely I can vouch for that, because when we got taken over, our successor employer being Momentum from GE Silicones, I mean, Apollo was the private equity firm, and they ran that business right into the ground, 3.5 billion. And they never got out of it and had to file bankruptcy. Now it's owned by the Koreans. This
and you know,
huh?
Apollo owns Athene. And one of the interesting
wonderful.
things we're going to talk about at the Retiree Summit is, you know, Athene reinsures 80% of its liabilities with a Bermuda affiliate that's not subject to U.S. Insurance laws.
Yeah.
And
We could say
Athene is
Dominican.
also the biggest creditor of the Silicon Valley Bank that just went bust.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the
Wonderful.
notion that these things aren't all interrelated is a farce at this point.
You're darn right. You're darn right. There's so many Towers Watson signed so many papers for GE for crying out loud. You think they're partners, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
Well, in a way they are.
Yeah, they are. This last line I put on here, we lay out the trends and the facts. I don't have a lot of time anymore, Ed, but I'm doing the best I can with this. Now it's up to these people. We're a coalition of retirees. That's what I'm saying to them. I'm going to post this whole agenda on our Facebook page. We're only as strong as the support we get, from the people. And that's including all the other groups and associations that are involved with you right now. It's their future. They got to decide whether they want to get involved and stop this decimation of their benefits, plain and simple,
Yeah. And I think it's important that people stay focused, because a lot of this stuff, I can sound the alarm now, but we're going to have to see how things play out, because it's not going to happen immediately. I mean, even with the GE plan, I can tell you right now, there's no chance they're going to miss a payment over the next couple of years. No chance.
No, they can't.
Their pre-funding balance is over $4 billion. They don't have that much to pay out. But the question is, 5 years after the spinoff, is the power company going to be able to make its minimum required contributions to the plan once they sort through all those, those accounting shenanigans, and they realize the plan's more underfunded than they think?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the issue is.
I told, I actually told Butch Rudy from GE there, I said, you better put me in aviation. I don't want that damn power. I said, you ain't gonna screw me.
Yeah, well, let's see. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to have to hop. Samantha, if you haven't sent them already, the save the date thing, make sure you do one for them.
Yeah. We'll post it, Ed. We'll end up posting this video, this agenda. We'll keep trying to promote April 19th, try to get people over to Retirees for Justice. We'll do the best we can do. So I need everybody on that was on the board to help me with this stuff, but I'll post this stuff on our site. When I get the supplemental to the 2021, their annual report at 22, it was from 2021.
Yeah.
I'll send that to you.
Yeah, and Rodney and Connie, you guys, and if anyone else gets it, send it to me, because I just want to map this stuff out, because it's hard to figure. It's such a complicated and large plan. I really want to kind of look at the trends. So I collect this stuff and actually sit down sometime and put it all out on the table and try and map what the numbers look like versus what they said the year before.
Well, you remember, Ed, that they had, what was it, Price Waterhouse? I don't know what the hell the financial group was. They end up, stockholders demanded they get rid of them and put somebody else in because they kept playing with the damn numbers. That's when Immel was in there and they almost went bankrupt. So they finally threw them out. You know what they do with numbers. You know what the game is.
Yeah, it's unfortunately in the pension world, it's not entirely GE's fault. I mean, the federal government allowed people to choose segment rates because after the financial crisis, they concluded that, using these artificially low interest rates for calculating liabilities would work a hardship on these defined benefit plan sponsors. So they created this whole fiction about these rates. So it's a little bit better now because interest rates have moved up, but when interest rates were low and flat for a long period of time, it really hurt pension plan funding a lot. Big plan like this, can turn upside down pretty quick.
You know what we told them, don't you? When Jeff Immel left, we told them, that, matter of fact, it was brought up at the last GERBS, they wanted to claw back the money from Jeff Immel and his big damn pension, golden parachute. Get that money back. The guy almost killed the business.
Yeah, and he's in an altogether different plan. The top executives have their own special plan, top hat plan, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, I know. But still, there's the idea of clawing the money back. You know what I mean?
All right. So make sure you get Samantha whatever list she could send stuff to. She'll follow up, and then we'll make sure you have all the updated info. Oh, we're going to record all of the sessions at the retiree roundtable, so they will be available after the fact. Okay. Don't necessarily tell everybody that now, because we'd love them to appear.
Yeah. We ideally want people to be there virtually so they'll be able to ask questions of all the speakers, so it'll be interactive. So if people could attend virtually, if they can make it in person, then if they can attend virtually, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Right.
Does that say that on that sign-in form or that form that they got to make out that they can come in virtually too? Does it say
it does,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
It says there'll be a live stream. I'm not sure if people aren't sure what I mean by live streams, so perhaps we should change the language to be a little clearer.
Yeah. Are
Yeah,
you,
put in
are you
Zoom,
looking
everybody
at
knows
something
Zoom.
like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, or what are you looking
We're gonna be using Zoom, so put in live stream, Zoom.
at? Yeah,
Yeah.
we're familiar with that, at least a little bit, because we've been using
Yeah,
Okay.
good idea. I will make that change before. And then John, I will email you after this meeting and to get some that list of email addresses
it. Yeah,
and
so I'll send you,
um,
everybody's all right, Betsy, Rodney, Connie, you're all right with that, I assume, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right, then it sounds like, we covered things. Too bad we didn't get an audience, but.
Well, we had an audience. We got dedicated retirees. You gotta start somewhere.
I think.
You're a hell of an optimist, Ed. I appreciate
He is
that.
an optimist. And
I'm just a guy who pushes a big rock up a hill, Rodney. That's it.
Yeah.
and we've been fighting this complacency and lethargy for how many years now? 8 years or so.
At least 45 for me.
God, yeah, at least 45.
Well, stay involved, Rodney. All you guys are great, and we'll do what we can.
Okay.
All right. Sounds
Fine.
good.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
All right,
I'll be
thank
in
you,
touch
Ed.
with you.
Thank you.
I'll be
Bye.
sending out the materials, so look for them, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks. Thanks,
All
John.
right. I'm gonna close
Thanks,
off the
everyone.
recording. Where is it?
Bye.
There it is.